everyone. Welcome to another episode of Film Seizure. I am Jason Oliver.
I am Jeff Arbuckle.
I'm Chuck Moore.
And once again, we have who? Who do we have, sir? What's your name?
Mr. Ken Shuttleworth.
Yes, we had to search for him to get him to come back for another episode of Film Seizure, and we found him.
We found him.
I told you last week, beat me up for that shit. So.
Yeah.
There you go.
It took us a couple shuttles worths of adventures to find him, but
we had to get the right coordinates for you to beam you up. We had to find you to beam, and we did.
Yes, we did.
Sorry, I stepped on
Oh no, I was going to say this is another quarantine session. Yep. So this episode is being recorded on Skype because we are doing whatever we can do to help Bill Gates take over the world.
We're actually also recording all these episodes with masks on in our own isolated homes. That's how seriously we're taking this pandemic.
Yep. I have lathered my cats in like disinfectant stuff. So
my cats are all in bubbles. My cats are all in bubbles. Yeah, plastic bubbles.
Are they floating around in bubbles, just like bouncing? And
it's hilarious. They're run in them and they don't move anywhere. It's amazing. Yeah,
that's pretty cool. So what are we doing here?
We're on a Trekation.
Trekation.
We're on a Trekation. We're going through Star Treks 2 through 6 on this Trekation, and we are now at the point in the voyage where we have to search for Spock.
Star Trek 3: The Search for Spock. So can I get some general feelings from everybody what they felt about this movie? It's really important that I hear from you guys because it's really, really important to understand where I am today with it.
Okay. I can start if you like.
I would have it no other way.
This movie is a bit of a mixed bag for me. Okay. It kind of has you come off the highs of 2 with the action and adventure, and 3 kind of plods along in places. It doesn't quite engage me, at the level that as Khan does. But there are some really iconic moments in this. Like really big moments in this that are super amazing and really, really important, I think, to my love of Trek. And I really, really, sometimes I hate it and sometimes I really love it. But Christopher Lloyd's performance as the Klingon is like, I have a love-hate thing for that. But I'm sure we'll get into that. But yeah, I mean, it feels like the thing that it doesn't feel like a fully realized story, I guess.
Okay.
And I think that's where it's more of like a gateway to the next movie, right? But some cool things happen, and I still like it a lot, but it's sort of middle tier where these movies are concerned for me.
Okay.
Middle or lower tier.
Ken, why don't you go next, and then I'll go and pass it on to Jeff.
Sure.
Plan.
I'm kind of with Jason. 3 is a mixed bag for me. This was the first time that I actually watched 2 and 3 back to back, and I definitely felt differently about 3 doing it that way than if I just watched 3 as a standalone, like at a completely different time. I did find some things I had issues with. Shocker. But overall, I would say of the 6, this would probably fall somewhere in the middle for me as well.
Yeah, I was thinking of the rankings in my head, and I probably put this one. I mean, it's much better than 5, but it's probably 4th out of. Or no, sorry, 5th out of the 6 movies. I think I like Motion Picture better than this movie.
Yeah, so for me, I'm only thinking of the trilogy here because I still have yet to finish the full run. But this was definitely my least favorite of the 3. Mm-hmm. And having watched Back to the Future recently. I had a lot of problem with Doc Brown. I don't think I would have had I not had that fresh in mind, because I don't think he was terrible, but it was just weird.
He's so Christopher Lloyd, right?
Yes,
I mean, his voice is so distinctive. His phrasing, the way he is emphatic about things is so Christopher Lloyd. Like, it's hard to separate him.
Right.
Yeah, and he doesn't melt into the character. Yeah.
Yeah. So overall, I liked it. But yeah, there are some moments. But I must have your thoughts on this, Jeff. May I join your mind?
Beautiful.
Oh my! That's why you said
Yes.
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 Perfect. Perfect.
We keep you around for those zingers, buddy.
Yep. That's why you're making the big bucks here.
Gotta have them.
So, growing up, I really didn't like this movie for one specific moment. But as I've gotten older, I have a very different point of view of it. It's a sad movie. Because it's dealing with some heavy things that kind of roll off of some of the kind of more downer type of stuff that was going on in Star Trek 2. But I think as an adult, I think I understand it better than I did when I was a little kid. They blew up my Enterprise, my favorite Enterprise. And that I did not forgive for a long, long time.
That, yes, but that to me is what I always remember about this movie. It's like, holy shit, they blew up the Enterprise. Like, that sequence is, I think, one of my absolute favorite Star Trek moments.
There are two really good sequences in this movie.
Yeah.
But yeah. Again, outmaneuvering the bad guy.
Yeah. Again, it's the Kobayashi Maru. Like, it's the no-win situation, right?
Right.
Yep.
Yeah. So, I mean, I don't know. I understand it better. I think as a kid, I always kind of felt like that they maybe, undone or undid things that Star Trek 2 did so well. But I realize now, as an adult, that's not so much the case.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
I like, there's elements that I really enjoy. I like that they have to go rogue, right? I love that. I love that, they're without orders. And it's hammered home in the theme, but they're putting the needs of the one ahead of the needs of the many, which is something that Spock has to learn from his mother. But that doesn't come until 4. Yeah, sorry.
It's hard. You're right. It's so hard to. But at the same time, it shows that they really did do a pretty good job in the series connecting dots.
Absolutely.
Yeah, it's a good trilogy.
Yeah. So in this movie, there's a lot less stuff going on under the surface. I mean, it's a pretty simple story. I mean, Spock died. They're coming back home to Space Dock, and I do like the scene where the young cadet asks if there's going to be a hero's welcome.
Yeah.
And Kirk was like, "Well, there better be, because we paid for it with our dearest blood."
Yeah, I love that. Yeah. That was my first note, actually.
Yeah, and
we paid for the party with our dearest blood. Yeah.
Yeah, and the fact is, they didn't get anything for it.
No.
They basically get told that everybody's going to be decommissioned.
Yeah, all attention is on this new, better ship.
With time warp. Yeah.
Yeah.
Transwarp.
That's right. That time warp again is 4. I must just really want to talk about 4, guys.
Or Rocky Horror Picture Show, one or the other. Yeah.
Transwarp. What does transwarp mean?
It's just a different style of warp core engine. I mean,
but I imagine it's faster, right? I mean, that's
it's supposed to be, yeah.
Yeah.
It's because the speeds get changed around quite a bit.
Yeah.
In the like the next generation speeds are different than the speeds in the original series, and I think it has to do with trans warp drive. So,
Yeah.
But so they come back home to space dock, and Kirk is having a little party with his pals, and Spock's dad Sarek shows up and says, "Hey, how dare you not, bring Spock to Vulcan or whatever?" And he's like, "Well, he didn't ask." And he's like, "Well, yeah, he did." It's like, "Well, he didn't ask me." I'm really, 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 speaking directly from the script. This is exactly what they said.
Yeah.
Movie. So then they say, "Okay, well, all right. Well, we're gonna bring, you got to go get his body because somebody has his katra, his brain bits inside their brain bits, his consciousness, and so we're gonna put them back together." Which I think is funny because Sarek sells this as, this is just the Vulcan way.
Yeah.
And then they bring Spock to Vulcan, and the old lady's like, "What you said, what you're asking has never been done."
Right. Yeah. Right. It's crazy.
Didn't she say like it hasn't been done in like thousands of years or something like
right,
that?
and even then it was just legend.
Yeah.
And so then if I were Kirk, I would have been like, "Excuse me, Sarek, you son of a bitch.
I mean, I guess
my son died for you, you asshole."
Yeah, you're kind of absolutely right. Yeah.
Yeah. So anyway, so Kirk's like, "All right, well, we're gonna go back to Genesis." He asks the commander of Starfleet, and the guy's like, "No." "Well, can I take the Enterprise?" "No."
No. Oh, I love this line. He says, he tells his crew that he was denied, and he says so matter of factly that I therefore am going anyway.
Yeah. Right. It's like, so what's the word? The word is no. Therefore, I'm going anyway.
Therefore, I'm going anyway. I love it.
It's funny, for all the stuff we lauded Kirk for in the last movie for being brash and going by the book and doing things the ways he's supposed to, he's absolutely not.
At least in this movie.
But what I appreciate about him is that he isn't dragging people along. He's not trying to manipulate people into doing something they don't want. Yeah. He is very conscious of the fact that this could end your career. If you don't want to do this, it's okay, and that's refreshing, honestly.
Yeah. It's like because like.
But of course they're gonna go.
He just leaves you Uhura behind. He's like, deal with this guy.
Well, they go kind of into like a Captain Kirk's Ocean's 11 kind of maneuver for the characters. Was kind of cool.
Right.
It's like heisty movie.
They kind of do that in 4 too. Yeah.
Yeah.
You do want to talk about 4, don't you?
I do.
He cannot wait to talk about 4.
It cracked me up when they're getting everyone together to go back on the Enterprise to leave, and they go in to get McCoy out of that like a high security thing they got him, and Chekhov, like the smallest dude, just pins that dude up against the wall that's like 2 feet taller.
So there's a few things
and
about
also Sulu is like, "Don't call me tiny."
Yeah.
So there's a few things here, like before McCoy gets locked up, they have that really terrible bar scene. Like, it's bad. I'm like, oh my God, I'm in for it.
The how soon is now scene?
Yes.
Yeah.
It's so overacted and bad. I was like,
it's a disco.
Suck.
It's the 23rd century disco.
Well, and one thing.
But I like that it introduces you to a little bit of the underbelly, though, of the Federation.
Yeah.
Like not everything is utopia here. Yeah, it's definitely the Mos Eisley Cantina scene. Yeah,
is that why McCoy was like talking about? Oh, I've got plenty of money. Like, if you need money, I got that. Just get me a ship.
Right. Well, and also
I thought money wasn't really a thing in the Star Trek world.
It's not supposed to be, and they hammer that home in 4. There is no money. Yeah. So it has to be something else of worth. Like, I imagine if you're dealing with some sort of underworld, there is something that is exchanged at a value that you have
fuel or something like that.
Yeah, I'm sure there's
sort of credit or something. Yeah. But like, I like that he shows up and the one waitress. I have a feeling McCoy and that waitress have had some
Oh
after
yeah.
hours
Oh,
business.
for sure.
Because he comes in and she's like, I've been looking for you. It's like,
Uh-oh.
How you doing?
It's like, I've been looking for you. Where's my fucking child support?
Can I also mention, like, before they get on their Ocean's 11 scheme, the scene where there's something going on in Spock's chambers,
Yeah.
right? And the security has been breached in his chambers. I ordered that sealed, and they're like, I know, but we're reading a life form. And so it kind of starts to give you the red herring of, oh, is Spock alive, right? And you go down, of course he's not going to be in there. But he is kind of in there. McCoy is in there.
And he talks like Spock.
He talks like Spock. But the thing about this scene that cracks my shit up are the security officers.
Mm-hmm.
They're dressed like 1950s football players.
That's how that actually came from Star Trek the Motion Picture. Remember when Ilea showed up as the probe? There was the Ensign Perez. He was there in that same outfit.
Man,
It looked like Flash Gordon almost.
It did, yeah.
Yeah, it's dumb as shit, man. Like seriously, have they not learned in the 23rd century that leather helmets do not protect you from shit?
They still dress like it's a fucking disco in that bar. So
yes, they do.
They don't know nothing about nothing there.
Well, and on the door to his room, they have that little red light alarm that's like beeping. Like, what? Why is that necessary? And then as soon as Kirk walks by it just stops.
Yeah.
Oh, I do like that the bar they have that couple that's sitting in the bar with like tribbles.
Yeah.
I like that. That's kind of fun.
You can kind of see McCoy when he glances over that way. Kind of gives a little bit of a disgusted look too.
Oh yeah, he should. He knows the dangers.
He knows the troubles with them.
He knows the troubles with tribbles. Yep. So McCoy is
I missed the obvious joke there.
Thanks.
So it's I mean, how can you be that deaf with ears like that? Right. But anyway, so McCoy is trying to himself get to Genesis separately from what Kirk is learning from Sarek.
I like that too, though, because he's got to get this out of his head, man. He knows
Suffering.
that. Yeah, he is. He's suffering.
Yeah. He's also fruity as a nutcake.
That cracked me up.
Yeah.
Yes,
Also-
I say that from time to time to this day. Yeah.
Speaking of fruity as a nutcake, and I'm going to get canceled for this,
Oh.
but this is like the first time you see Takai like actually being like using his own personality
Yeah.
as part of his character in Star Trek. Like he's a little flamboyant.
Yeah.
He's got that bitch in like that blue silky shirt with the leather jacket.
Yeah, and he's got it slung over his shoulder.
Yeah.
Like,
Oh yeah,
it's
he
really
totally,
cool. It was actually
he
really
totally
awesome.
leaned into that. You're not going to get canceled for that. That's great. Yeah.
I think the fruity as a nutcake is what would cancel.
Well, because that's what led you there. Yeah,
Yes.
well,
it was my next note, but
Yeah.
My next note was George Takei is
Your
he's a
only
nutcase.
throat catch human, Chuck.
awesome.
Okay, let's get to the first really, really iconic moment, stealing the Enterprise.
Yes,
This scene is so fucking cool.
it is cool.
Yep.
Mm-hmm.
Like, they show up, Scotty has rigged it so that if Kirk went alone, he could.
Yeah.
Right.
Like a ship that's supposed to have 430 people on it
Uh-huh.
could be run by one person.
He could skeleton crew it for sure.
Yes.
Yeah.
Super
And he also has fucked up the Excelsior. Did you guys
But it makes
catch
you
on?
wonder. It makes you wonder though. Why do they need the Enterprise? Like, you could take any small shuttlecraft or
I
something.
think they want it, not need it. That's what Kirk wants. He wants his Enterprise.
He wants to take his Enterprise. Yeah.
Well, of course.
Yeah.
I mean, it's a Star Trek movie. You've got to have the Enterprise, but you don't need the Enterprise.
Well, what's he going to do? Go on that ship that's in that the other guy runs on Picard?
But he,
Like, how's that
he was also told. Yeah,
That
he
didn't
was.
work out.
When they came back, he was told by the admiral like that the ship was going to be decommissioned. So I think that was
It's-
also a motivator of like, no, I'm taking this
I
again.
want
Yeah,
it's going on another mission. That's fair. It's
This
all
is
fair.
not
But
going
I'm
to the junkyard.
I'm just saying from the standpoint of the effort it would take for Scotty to do all of that rigging. It just seems like an unnecessary level of effort.
Well,
But whatever.
Scotty was game for it.
We got to have the Enterprise. And Scotty, of course, Scotty's going to
Scotty-
save the Enterprise in
yeah.
any way, shape, or form he can.
Well, he already was saying when they saw the Excelsior, it's like, that thing looks like a piece of shit. You know,
Right.
I mean, it's like, fuck that guy. I want this ship as my lady. You know, that's a fucking whore over there. You
But
know,
it's great he gets
again.
brought
I'm
onto the
reading
new
straight
ship.
from the. I'm reading
right
straight
from the script.
Yeah,
Right from the
yep.
script. Yeah.
He's
Did you also
Scottish,
notice,
say more.
Jason? Did you guys notice that on the Excelsior, the navigator was Miguel Ferrer?
Yes, I did. Yes. I was like, holy shit, fucking Agent Rosenfeld. Yeah. Hell yeah. God, I love Miguel Ferrer. He's God, Albert Peaks, man. He's just the best.
He's
Now,
awesome.
Captain Styles, I wrote this exact note that I sent to you guys. With his bullshit scepter, what a fucking asshole. Now,
Yeah.
first and foremost, there is a little bit of a
That actor looked familiar. Who is that actor?
James B. Seeking. He was the dad of
What's he seeking?
James B. Seeking. Is
Yeah,
just-
what's he seeking for? Is he
Spock.
searching for Spock?
I believe he was on a lot of TV shows.
He looked really familiar.
Yeah. I want to say that I don't. I'm not going to say that. I don't know, but he's been on a lot of TV shows. There's a story. It's apocrypha, but it is still something that kind of has caught on. Supposedly, after the 3-week training mission, Sulu was supposed to be the captain of the Excelsior at that stage.
Okay.
But because of the whole thing with Khan and Genesis, they classified everything. So basically, that fucked Sulu.
Yeah.
And fucking Styles and his bullshit scepter got the do shit. So that's why constantly in Star Trek 3 and Star Trek 4, like Sulu wants that fucking Excelsior.
Yeah, he does.
That Excelsior.
He wants to drive that ship so bad.
He wants it to be his boyfriend.
Yeah.
And he finally gets it in Star Trek 6. But
Sure does.
but yeah, it was as early as Star Trek 3 when you see the Excelsior, like Captain Styles was kind of an ass.
Yeah.
And he is absolutely mostly an ass. But it's that scepter, man. Everything. I hate that. I hate that so much.
Okay, well, getting back on track here, after Jeff's rant about Captain Styles' scepter, he gets what's coming to him.
Oh,
Scotty
yeah.
Scotty sabotages the shit out of that transwarp drive.
You noticed that Scotty was promoted to captain?
Wait,
No,
what?
I didn't notice.
Yeah. When the admiral is walking, basically telling everybody to beat cheeks, you're all done, and we're gonna tow the Enterprise to the junkyards. Oh, Captain, you're gonna Scotty, you're gonna report to the Excelsior tomorrow as captain of engineering, and he does have a caption's.
Oh, interesting.
Oh,
Huh. Yeah, he would.
He
wasn't
loses
having
that.
Yeah, he wasn't wanting that position
Yeah.
at all.
No, he didn't. He's like, well, I wanted to overlook the refit of Enterprise. And it's like, no.
I didn't really care for the
sound editing on when the Excelsior breaks down.
Yeah.
It sounded kind of just
It sounded like it pooped his pants.
it just didn't sound right. Yeah.
I always liked that.
It was like the exact same sound that they used, not to get too far ahead, but in 4, when Chekhov goes to fire the phaser and it just goes... Yeah. It sounded exactly like that.
Yeah, exactly. It's
Chuck,
like,
do you want to talk about
sci-fi
Star Trek
sounds
3?
go wrong.
No.
Like you and I can go into a separate conversation.
Yeah,
We
let's
can
just
talk
break
about
off. Let's just break off. It's time.
No, I'm down with 3. I was
Yeah,
just
me too.
making a connection there.
Me too. But
Don't make me jump to 5. I'm ready to talk about Star Trek 5.
God
so-
wants a starship.
Star Trek 3. they're going to go back to search for Spock, and we find out also.
Nailed it.
We also find out that David and Savick have been sent down to Genesis, or they're hovering around Genesis.
Yeah.
They're on the USS Grissom.
Yes.
They're basically the USS Grissom is the only starship that's allowed near Genesis.
Yes.
Because the rest of Starfleet is kind of like, we don't really know how to play this thing yet.
Right, because the Klingons are pissed some shit.
Yeah, the Klingons are pissed. They don't really know how to message this thing because it is kind of a big deal.
Well, it's nuclear power. It's a thing that can be a great thing, but if it's used as a weapon, it's really bad.
Yeah, and there's even a line that somebody tells Kirk, I think when he asks to go to Genesis, there's like, for all intents and purposes, or for your consideration or whatever, like Genesis doesn't exist.
Yeah.
Right?
You should not talk about it. Nobody should talk about it.
We're not talking about Genesis right now, but the Grissom is there to kind of monitor the thing. Yeah.
Right.
Mhm.
And then
they sent the most powerful starship in the whole fucking fleet to circle around this planet to monitor it. The super secret ship, or the super secret planet, and it's just got this dumpy ass little science vessel around.
Yeah. which we before this we've already been introduced to Christopher Lloyd's, what is his character's name? The Klingon?
Krug. Yeah, Krug.
Yep.
So that's kind of a cool scene actually when he
blows up his girlfriend.
Yeah, he blows up his girlfriend. It's like kind of crazy. It sort of sets up the fact that, all right, this guy he's got a singular focus. His girlfriend, I think she knew.
She 100% knew.
Well, when he says that's unfortunate, it's like, that's not a good thing to hear a Klingon say.
But she was kind of like, yeah, I understand. This is the way it has to be, and you're going on to do this noble thing in their minds, right? Kind of crazy stuff. And this is also the first time you've seen like the new Klingon design, which is
the bird of prey.
The bird of prey and the face makeup.
No.
Yeah.
No, isn't it?
No. Face makeup was seen in Star Trek: The Motion Picture.
Oh, you're right. You're right.
With the ridges.
Yeah.
There is something. Okay, so a couple of behind-the-scenes things about that. First and foremost, I think they really actually wanted it to be Romulans because Klingons never had birds of prey in the old series. It was always the Romulan bird of prey.
Yeah.
So there is this, again, apocrypha media out there that says that for a brief period of time, Klingons were buying ships from the Romulans.
Okay.
So that's actually a Romulan ship, but that
ship looks fucking awesome.
Yeah, it's a cool ship.
I love the look of the Klingon bird of prey.
I can't remember who it was. I can't remember if it was there was something that I had seen where the special effects guys were talking about how like they really wanted the wings to flap. Like there are times where the wings change position to be more like a bird.
Huh.
But yeah, so the other thing, and I will give there was something else about there was something about Roddenberry I was actually going to compliment on this with this.
Well, we can't have that. So.
Well, yeah. Well, I'll try to think of it, and if it ever comes back around, I'll.
Oh, we should also mention, I think at this point that Leonard Nimoy directed.
Yes.
This movie. And I know there was some kerfuffle about that because it wasn't really quite clear if he was going to come back. And Michael Eisner, who was the head of Paramount at the time, he was under the assumption that Nimoy had disavowed Star Trek at this point. So there was some concern about, can we get him to come back or not? That appeared to be, I think, a little bit of an exaggeration. Like Nimoy was game to come back. I think, and correct me if I'm wrong on the particulars here, Jeff, but I think that he enjoyed the making Star Trek 2.
Yes, he did. Yeah, because he had planned on Star Trek 2 being his end.
Yeah.
Right.
But then during making it, it's like he fell in love with it again.
Yeah, and the camaraderie of his castmates and everything, and then but Michael,
Because at that point it was during Star Trek 2 that I think he and Shatner became like BFFs.
and I think that Nimoy he was a savvy guy. He kind of also understood that there was this perception that maybe they think that he doesn't want to come back, and he sort of used that to get the directors.
Right.
Possibly. And now
Yeah.
I do know that it did ruffle Shatner's feathers a little bit.
Yeah,
it's like, why did he get the direct one? And that's why he got 5.
That's why he got 5. Yeah.
Now,
We don't know how that turned out.
However, 5 actually could have been a better movie. And that's for another time. We'll get to that in a couple of weeks. But, go ahead.
I was going to say about the opening credits, too, since we're talking about Nimoy, they only list him as director. He doesn't appear as any of as an actor. So there was still some question, even when that movie started, as to whether he would be in it or just directing it.
Correct. And yeah, that's right. So, and that's always something that I don't even think he shows up in the final credits either as Spock or as the fully adult Spock. But yeah, no, you're right. In the opening credits, they do kind of keep that a little bit hushed as whether or not he's actually going to be back. Now another thing. So I do remember one other thing I was going to say about Roddenberry. There was something I was going to say that actually. Oh, I remember what. Okay, so I've got a good and here's a compliment sandwich for Roddenberry. I'm glad that he created Star Trek. But he got really, really pissed off when they were going to blow up the Enterprise because he thought that getting rid of the Enterprise would have fully removed him from any power of Star Trek.
Why?
Oh, interesting.
Well, because they killed Spock, the most popular character, and now they're going to kill off the Enterprise. And if they put him on the Excelsior, that would be not Star Trek anymore. So he hated that. He fucking hated that. However, I will now give him one more compliment. There is one. He's often asked about like certain things that changed in Star Trek, like Klingons going from being guys in brown face to guys in brown face with ridges on their heads. And he said, and his response to anything that changed, like design or like how anything looked or anything like that. He always said, it's always been like that. You just couldn't see it until now.
I like it.
Yeah, I kind of like that, because that's an easy way to say, shut up, things change, effects get better, and all of that. So,
yeah.
And that's a good way to look at something like that if you really want to give it a shot. Why do things look so much different, like on Enterprise versus the original series or whatever? Well, it's just that's the way it always looked, and you just
that's just a good way of looking at life, honestly.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. So I mean, he's not a complete and total monster. He's kind of a monster, but he had some good moments. Now about Krug, I was going to say that I like that character a lot. I don't think he's that strong of a villain, only because he has very specific goals, and he's not exactly wrong in some of his goals.
Sure.
Like, he is legitimately concerned that the Federation has a super weapon.
This argument is
That
also
seems
made
fair.
by the Klingon ambassador in 4.
Yep.
Yes.
Jeff is just like bowing his head.
Yep.
But he is breaking a space treaty.
He
By
is, because
doing
he
what
is
he's
in
doing.
Federation. He is in Federation space.
Can we back up just 1 second?
Yeah.
Yes.
So
To 4? Are we backing up to 4?
We're backing up to 4.
Nah.
Time travel.
So this is something I noticed watching them back to back that I hadn't really paid attention to before. But at the start of 3, he and 2 other Klingons are watching Shatner or Kirk deliver the Genesis video.
Right.
Yes.
How did they get the Genesis
I
video?
totally agree.
That's what his girlfriend stole. She she went on a bounty hunt and stole.
How
it.
did she get? Where was that video from?
That was his report from the end of Star Trek II back to Starfleet,
All right,
Yep.
all right, okay.
and they
all right.
intercepted it,
Okay.
and that's what she transmitted over to them. So yeah, I mean, it's,
Check that out.
Good question though, Ken, because I
It's a
had the
good
same
question.
thought.
It is a good question, but yeah, that is his report back to Starfleet
Okay,
about what, and so basically he just re-recorded the.
all right, that works.
Yeah.
Because that comes up again in 4. Because you see the events.
Hold that
place.
image. Hold it.
Yep.
Anyway.
Yep. Anyway.
But yeah, no, Crew. I mean, like when they accidentally blow up the Grissom, he fucking kills his gunner. It's like, you animal! I wanted prisoners, you know, and it's like, whoa.
It was a lucky shot.
Yeah.
Right. Well.
Unlucky for you.
Yeah. Unlucky
I love Crew.
He mourns his dog.
Dog. I
Yeah.
love his dog.
His little demon dog.
That thing looks so cool. It's almost looks like the the dog from. It's like a skinnier version of the dog from Ghostbusters.
Yeah.
Yeah. I love it.
And he is distraught when his crew gets blown up in the Enterprise. Like,
Yeah.
he is mourning every single one of those. So he's not really. He's an antagonist, but he's not
Not evil.
he's not evil. He has a sense of honor and moral.
Yeah. I mean,
Yeah.
yeah. I mean, you see a lot of that come out in 6. That the Klingons are not like this mindless, villain. They have a specific code, a specific sense of honor, a specific sensibility, right? They are who they are, and it just happens to be the oil to the Federation's vinegar,
Right.
You know,
So if Star
Yeah.
Trek was about Klingons, Starfleet would be.
Right.
We'd consider them an enemy.
yeah,
Right.
absolutely.
Yeah.
We'd find
I mean-
value in the Klingons.
Right.
In that one.
And
Yeah.
I mean, and certainly, Next Generation really did a good job of digging deep into
Yes.
the Klingon
Absolutely.
code.
Well, Worf, was our vehicle into that, and
Right.
that was a really, really smart choice.
And well, they also had the real memeable Klingon who has like the really intense look. Have you ever seen the memes
Yeah.
of like staring in Klingon or what? So yeah, I mean, like you would meet these characters and you would get a sense for, oh yeah, I mean, like they have things that seem barbaric, but it really isn't. Like when the ambassador shows up in Star Trek 4, fuck, I'm doing it now too. But like, it's like he's well spoken. He's, and in 6 you have the lawyer
Yeah,
that that's Michael Dorn, but
yeah.
it's Worf's grandpa or something.
I
But
think, isn't it supposed to be Worf? I think
no, it's a grandfather or something.
grandfather or something. I don't
Yeah.
know.
But anyway, he, but like they're well spoken. They have a sense of law. They have a sense of sovereignty that we weren't really able to see before this.
Yeah,
Because
Right.
like remember at the start of Star Trek II, when Kirk tells Savick to pray because Klingons don't take prisoners.
Right.
But that's a misconception of them. That's just assuming that
Right.
they're going to be scalped
right.
by the savages.
Yeah. That's a good point. I like that.
So yeah.
Yeah.
So I mean, Krug he does some bad things, but if we were watching it like Chuck said from the other perspective, it would just be Kirk going down and punching an alien god and saying everybody's religion is wrong.
Yeah.
Right.
And then beaming out of there, and it's like, welcome to the Federation.
But he's
dumb
still,
all
nuts.
clap.
he's
Yeah.
still sort of a barbarian though, because
A little bit.
I think when he kills his own crewmen, that's pretty fucked up. Like there was no universe in which Kirk would do that, right? Like,
Well, no, he would just send a bunch of red shirts down to the fucking planet.
but he would never just outright like kill,
No.
his helmsman or his weapons, targeter or whatever on the
Yeah, no.
bridge of the Enterprise. Like that to me is a moment that shows how
The difference.
deranged
Yeah.
how
Well, it's
actually deranged his character is. Yeah.
Well, and they do kind of play up the Khan element too, where he's singularly focused on what he thinks is right and just, whether or not it really is right.
Yeah, he only sees in 2 dimensions as well.
Right.
So
Yeah.
back to the story aspect of it. Saavik and David are down on the planet because they were sent there to investigate a life force. They find Spock's casket with some microbes or something small that had grown exponentially.
Right. It evolved exponentially, yeah.
Yeah. But then they realize there's another life force on the planet.
Yeah, because the body of Spock isn't in the tube.
Right, right.
Yeah.
And they can hear screams in the distance.
That would be terrifying, to go onto a planet that's not supposed to have life and hear something screaming.
Right.
It's kind of like a weird metaphysical element they add to this because it's Spock, but it's not Spock. It's
the form of his body.
Right. It's only the form of his body. It doesn't have his katra.
Well,
right.
it's Saavik says, it's Spock, but his mind, but he's not himself.
Right. But at that same time, it's like that version of Spock is also forming thoughts.
Yeah.
Right. So
he's getting horny. He's getting the Ponfar.
The Ponfar, yeah.
Was the concept of Ponfar explored in earlier Star Trek, or is this the first time?
Yes.
Okay. Thank you.
Amok Time, I think it might have been.
Because that's why Spock was willing to fight Kirk to the death, because he wanted to get that Vulcan poon.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And she fell in love with Kirk. Oops.
Yeah.
Damn.
Yep. It was an arranged marriage.
I was chatting Jeff separately when watching this, and there's a really good trivia question here. Is how many different characters have played the role of Spock in Star Trek, right?
Right.
Like you're immediately going to get a lot of people who just really be like one, right? Or maybe they'll say two because of Zachary Quinto, right?
But there's the guy on Discovery.
There are. Oh, I didn't think about him. Shit.
There's the Infinite Vulcan, the young kid version from the cartoon.
Oh, I didn't think about him either.
And then you have like four.
There's five.
5 different kids.
5 different actors play Spock in this besides Nimoy.
So
you've got 5 there. You've got Nimoy. You've got Quinto. You've got those 2 people. So that's 9. And then I would argue that what's his face? Jesus Christ, DeForest Kelley would be the 10th
because he's basically playing Spock,
right?
For a brief.
So that's like the half. You could say 9.5, 10. So that to me is like a really good trivia question. There's a lot of people have played Spock.
Yeah. So I mean, and also the other thing they're finding out on the Genesis planet is that quarters of the planet are exceptionally different. And in one place where there is a subtropical, which you would think would be something like Florida or Texas or something, all of a sudden starts snowing, and they're realizing that the planet is unstable. And why is that? Why is the planet unstable?
Oh no, we lost Chuck. He's talking, but can't hear him.
We couldn't hear you there.
Quarantine.
Hold on, I'm fixing it. Quarantine stuff. Okay. Yeah, can you hear me now?
Yes.
Yeah.
David put protomatter, I think it was called, into Genesis to solve a bunch of problems, but it also obviously created its own problem.
So David is not much unlike his father to begin with. He cheated.
Yeah.
Right.
And in order to package Genesis as a thing that could be used, it's kind of like what Gus Gorman did in Superman 3. He put the tar into the kryptonite.
Right.
Because they didn't know what the final element was.
And it really leads to David's issue, because Saavik believes that, obviously I'm jumping ahead, I guess, here. Krug realizes that there are people on the planet,
Yep.
And he's after these specific people, so he sends Klingons down to capture them, basically. All while
Krug himself kills that big giant snake thing that the Michael
yes, he has to jump
with
back
the
up.
grape jelly.
Yes, he has to jump back up to the bird of prey because
The Enterprise is approaching.
The Enterprise is approaching.
Right.
So, but he has leaves men with Savick and David, and Savick believes that since this thing doesn't work, that Krug doesn't have any leg to stand on. It's like he's not going to kill us,
right?
Because this weapon is nothing.
Right.
Right.
What's the point? It's like now, but the thing is, though, it still is a weapon, though. Like
Right.
They couldn't use it to terraform other things, but I think at that point, Krug probably believes, I'll just take it and we'll just do whatever it is that we want with it.
Right. Savick is thinking as an establishing, like Genesis can only be used this way for some reason.
Well,
not
she's
thinking of
still,
the alternative.
she's still a little bit. She has a lot of youthful ideology that she doesn't. She thinks it illogical for it to be used a different way. And it would therefore be illogical for Krug to do anything other than just run, basically, at that point. Yeah, but that is not what he does.
Yeah. But Jason stepped away for a moment here, but the next part is probably the most crucial to the entire film, right? Like,
well, it's not only crucial to this, but it's crucial to Star Trek 6 also.
Right. And four. A lot of four. Yeah.
Yeah, 4 is there too, right? But also, I mean, like, so the Enterprise arrives, and Sulu and Kirk are like looking at the viewer, and it's like
something foggy out there.
Something foggy out there. Something's weird. There's a distortion, and they're trying to sort out what it could be. Is it just a glitch? Is it actually something from the atmosphere? Is it big enough to hide a ship? And if it is, then it has to be a cloaking device, which means Klingons or Romulans. That can't be good. It's illegal for that to be used in the Federation. So it's gonna be a bad guy probably.
And there's a really cool exchange between Kirk and McCoy, where Kirk is trying to get him to put shields up or something like that. And Kirk says, if my guess is right, she'll have to decloak before she can fire.
Yep. And may all your guesses be correct.
And McCoy says, may all your guesses be correct. And that's cool because that's thematic. Like, guessing and logical ideas are very, like, spread across these 3 movies.
Yep.
Like, when are you using logic and when is your guess good enough?
Right.
And obviously Kirk turns out to be right. They have to uncloak, so he just mauls them, basically, when they uncloak.
Yeah, that he sets a trap, basically.
Yeah.
And it's that was something I will always remember as a kid, when the bird of prey decloaks and Sulu turns around. It's like Klingon bird of prey decloaking off the starboard bow or something like that.
Right.
And Kirk is like ready. He's like, fire. It's like, yeah, we're ready. We're fucking ready.
Right. And then we end up in that unwinnable situation again, right?
Right.
Kirk is in it yet again. Like, how many times does this shit come up? So Krug lets him know that he has prisoners on the planet, and you're screwed, man. I'm gonna start killing them.
Yeah.
If you don't give me everything you know about Genesis.
Right.
Right. And here's another one of those moments where Kirk, knowing the system and knowing the Enterprise and stuff like that, turns out to be the only way he can escape this situation.
He's got blown up with them on board.
Yeah, it's like it's the coolest thing, that whole countdown.
Yep.
Yeah, it's so cool.
Yeah, it was great, and it's obviously iconic for someone who's a huge Star Trek fan to see the Enterprise explode.
Uh-huh.
Right, which you brought up earlier.
Hurt so bad, man. It broke my heart.
That sequence, I saw this in the theater, and this was the first Star Trek movie I saw in the theater, and oh my God, like, I was just so blown away by that. I couldn't believe they did it. I was also just so exhilarated by it. I loved the trick of it, Yeah,
it was great. There's one fault I think he had, but go ahead.
I love how when they beam out, immediately the Klingons beam in.
Yeah,
Like that. Yeah, it's like,
Yeah,
oh,
I
that
love
was so
that.
cool.
I think they should have beamed to the Klingon ship.
that's exactly
personally.
what I thought was going to happen, and I was
Yeah.
wondering if maybe you guys could tell me why they couldn't do that potentially.
The Klingons were probably had their shields up
Oh,
because a torpedo, as we see later in the series, would have blown up that or would have really fucked up that bird of prey.
Right.
Because Krug says himself, they outgun us. Why are they not firing? Like,
Yeah.
and so they're
why
probably
haven't they destroyed us? Yeah.
why haven't they
yeah.
responded? They outgun us. Yeah.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's they're probably protected from being beamed onto the ship.
Right.
But also, they got to go get Savick and Spock anyway.
Right.
So
That's true.
yeah,
That's true.
I was a
But-
little annoyed with the unceremonious death of David. Like, maybe that's just a sign of the times in the 80s, but he dies off screen almost.
Well, I don't know. When I saw that the first time, the stabbing motion, that the Klingon does with his knife into David's chest. I mean, that was indelible on my
guess.
brain as a kid.
they probably did it. They probably shot it the way they shot it so they could preserve the PG rating.
Yeah.
Maybe, but you think about it nowadays, if a character dies off screen like that, if you don't physically see them die, they're probably still alive.
Right.
Oh, well, that's a comic book trick.
Yeah. But yeah, I mean, nowadays it's 100% what you think. So my immediate thought was, oh, he didn't die there, because I hadn't seen this movie in ages. So
Right. Yeah. No, that makes sense. That's sort of a trope thing now. Yeah.
Yeah.
But it is also kind of it lends to also we're kind of stuck in the position of Kirk too, you being kind of on the outside,
Right. I
and
can
being
see that.
and basically feeling the same way he does, where it's like, oh my God, we've been shut out of this. But yeah, so yeah, they got to blow up the Enterprise, and
Yes, they do.
but that does lead to my favorite line in this movie, when they're watching the Enterprise break up over the Genesis planet, and Kirk
Which is
says,
an amazing shot as well.
yeah,
Yeah, it is.
and they're standing on that cliff, and you see each one of their reaction to it, and then Kirk says, "My God, Bones, what have I done?"
What have I done?
And
What you had to do, what you've always done.
turn death
Kirk,
into a fighting chance to live.
fucking awesome, man. That's
Yep.
awesome shit right there.
That is Kirk in one sentence.
Yep.
Because I mean, he is a little brash, obviously. I mean, we talked about all the things that he isn't that gets mischaracterized last time, but he is somebody who will take a chance to make sure as many people survive as possible.
As long as I don't have a red shirt on, I would follow Kirk.
Yeah. Oh yeah, I'd feel real good if I got a gold shirt on.
Yeah. I'd be
Those guys didn't die hardly at all.
I don't think the red shirts are aware that they're going to die necessarily, so you wouldn't have any idea.
That's fair enough. But
if I had a choice in a matter and I had all this information, I would be aware.
if I take a slingshot around the sun and end up in the 23rd century, I'm like, I'll take the yellow shirt, please.
Hey Jeff, that's
Yeah.
Star Trek 4.
I could be talking about the episode Assignment Earth, where they do the same thing.
So I have a question too here.
Okay.
And immediately when Kirk plays the trick, and jumps to the planet and basically destroys all of Krug's crew, why doesn't he immediately give the order to kill Spock and Savick? Like, it seemed really clumsy.
Well, I think he was taken by surprise, and he was
Do
mourning.
you think he
them.
just mourning and wasn't thinking about what was going on? I guess that makes sense.
Well, he beamed down himself, so I think maybe he's just like,
Yeah, he only.
Well, he had to get incited to.
oh, that's
beam
true.
down.
That's true. He did. Yeah.
Yeah, it's like, why don't you come down here and we'll talk?
Yeah.
And even when Spock is like throwing his captors, they don't do anything. They're just like, oh, a tree is falling. Hey, we're getting thrown. Like,
Yeah.
that part is one of my problems with this film. It was very poorly handled, I think.
Yeah, that's fair enough. I mean, that's.
I just think it's kind of a clumsy. You've got the highest of of climax with the Enterprise blowing up. It's sort of difficult to to transition from that into how do we conclude all of these other strings. Yeah,
Right.
I agree. It's clumsy.
I don't know if you guys read about how they actually filmed the Enterprise blowing up. Because first and foremost, they really didn't want to blow up the model, knowing that they would probably someday have another Enterprise to shoot.
Yeah.
Right.
So what they did was they painted the bridge black, and so when it's the faraway shot, they could animate fire over the black paint.
Okay.
Oh.
And then when they did any close-ups, that was like they had a close-up model of the bridge exploding. And then when you see the registry and the title of the ship melting, that was just foam, and they heated the foam under it so it melted into itself.
Huh.
Oh, that's cool.
Yeah, and so basically they built a separate model with the broken up bits and then just animated an explosion in front of it. So that so they were not going to blow up the master model of the ship.
Right.
That's funny.
Right.
Yeah.
I think that this is moving ahead to 6 a little bit, but the battle in 6 where the Enterprise takes the photon torpedoes like straight through the hole.
Yeah.
Oh my God, that like always was amazing to me.
It was taking Star Trek 2 and Star Trek 3 and upping it by actually showing it go through.
Oh God, that
destroying the bar.
yeah, that was so fucking cool, man.
Yeah. So basically, there's a really cool kind of behind the scenes thing that also happened in that little fist fight between Christopher Lloyd and William Shatner. So one of the money saving elements was they shot the Genesis planet on a set. And it obviously looks like a set. It actually kind of takes you back to like the original series where every planet was a set.
Yeah, for sure.
But and there was not much they could do about that. Paramount realized with Star Trek 2 how much money they could make with just a $12 million budget. They were only given $16 million to make this movie.
Which is kind of crazy because I guess they have to blow up the Enterprise, but it doesn't feel like a bigger budget movie than 2.
Well, I feel like there was a little bit more. There were a little bit more effect shots with like the Grissom, and they had models like the new models
and
of
the Bird of Prey. They've got to build that.
Yeah, and the Excelsior. They had so they have new models. There were a
lot more interiors they had to design, and obviously like they got to give all these actors a raise. Yeah.
Probably, yeah.
And whatever Nimoy was getting for directing.
Right. Yep.
Right. Which I think actually that might be why, as Chuck said, he was not credited as an actor, was that they probably couldn't.
Huh.
And so it's kind of a win-win. We can't pay you to be both an actor and a director.
Yeah.
You get to be a director, which he did use to great extent, throughout the rest of his life. But then you get to direct, and your character's name is in the title, and they kind of
it was a pretty big coup for Leonard Nimoy.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And so then Siskel and Ebert's review of this, Gene Siskel said when they're reviewing it, he says, well, I'm going to give it away. They find Spock. You named the movie Search of Spock, the search for Spock. What are you going to do? Not find him?
Right.
So he basically spoiled the movie for everybody, but he had a good point.
In reality, Spock was there the whole time.
Oh my God.
Right. Well, that's what Ebert says. Spock is there the whole time. He controls everybody's actions.
Right.
Basically, yeah. But yeah.
This is a funny factoid from the Wikipedia. William Shatner reprises the role of Admiral James T. Kirk, a Starfleet officer. Shatner remarked that being directed by Leonard Nimoy, his longtime co-star and friend, was initially awkward. Although as the shoot went on, it became easier as Shatner realized how confident Nimoy was. Then, to reduce weight, Shatner dieted before the start of production, but as filming continued, he tended to slip. The costume department had to make 12 shirts for him.
I was going to bring that up later. It's hilarious.
So something else that was the behind the scenes thing about so the Genesis planet. It's like, okay, so it's this set, right? Well, at one point they have the fight with Kirk and Krug, and there's supposed to be these jutting rocks that are supposed to like fly up around them, but that didn't work. It would just slowly rise up, and they couldn't figure out how to fix it. And supposedly, Shatner and Christopher Lloyd devised a fight where they could use the slower moving rocks to have, like Christopher Lloyd be like thrown into Kirk, which starts the fist fight. And so they were basically able to use a malfunctioning special effect as part of like an old school TV show fight.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
Huh.
So and Shatner kind of directed that part, or like at least coordinated it.
That's cool.
Yeah. Yeah. So because he used to do it every week on the old show. So it's like, hey, so here's what we're going to do. We'll have your stunt double stand on that. He'll get thrown into my stunt double, and then we'll fight.
Oh, Jeff.
That's cool.
Yeah, but so anyway, he gets there. He kicks Krug off a cliff. So I have had enough of you. Kicks him in the face. And he has John Larroquette beam him up to the bird of prey, which Chuck had the line that you liked.
Oh yeah, when he says he's gonna take him as a prisoner, and the guy says, "I don't deserve to live."
Yeah.
And Kirk says, "Fine, I'll kill you later."
Yeah.
Like totally just dismissively almost.
Yeah, and then just like
later.
take him off to the brig.
And then like 2 minutes later, he's like, "I thought you were going to kill me. I lied."
Yeah, exactly.
Total commando moment too. Speaking of a movie we just covered. Yeah.
Yeah.
I lied.
Yeah, so they get to Vulcan. Now, here's one of the notes that I made. So mysticism and religion in a civilization totally devoted to logic is utterly fascinating to me.
Mm-hmm.
Because
I didn't like this part of the movie. Sorry, go ahead.
Well, what's the point of them having something like this? Now, I do like Mark Leonard's line as Sarek when he says that, when the old lady's like, "This isn't very logical of you to ask." And it's like, well, my logic is...
this is my son.
Yeah, it's my logic is... I can't
clouded remember. Or something, yeah.
Something like when it comes
to my son, yeah.
Yeah. But also the temple there on Mount Salea had those temple babes. It's like, why are they there? Why are these temple babes there?
Yeah, you had like the row of them where they were all just holding like one hand up.
Yeah,
like this,
one
too.
hand up, and they're wearing practically see-through outfits. And it's like, I'm digging this, but why? Why does this exist?
And why do we have this weirdo percussionist there?
Oh, yeah. The Asian Vulcan who's like banging the gong?
Yes.
Yeah.
They haven't done it for thousands of years. Maybe they don't remember how. So.
Yeah.
How did they even get get assembled? Like, who coordinated this?
Sarek.
So, yeah. I mean, he called them up on the Vulcan phone. And it's like, hey, man.
It's like, we need to do this thing.
Yeah, we got to do this thing.
Assemble.
Yeah. Well, yeah, because Uhura comes out, and it's like they're waiting for you up all those fucking stairs over there. You know,
you have to send those steps.
And we have to carry Spock. That would suck, man. I'd be like, why? These guys are stronger than us. They can carry.
It's the 23rd century, even on Vulcan. Yeah. Can we figure out a better mode of transport here? Yeah.
No, see, Vulcans are logical. They know that technology will destroy the human race. They're all racist, so they don't.
They couldn't have beamed Spock's body down ahead of time.
But they got all those computers and shit in 4, you know. So
I would set Spock on like one of the like Weekend at Bernie's style, like on one of those elevator lifts. Where he's just like slumped over in a chair, like Mrs. Deagle style.
That would be hilarious.
But
But they do the thing.
I would have been like, I'm landing the bird of prey on top of this thing.
The only person, though, honestly, at this point who'd be like, fuck yes, we have to try this would be McCoy, man. Like, he wants Spock out of his brain so badly.
It was his revenge for all the arguments he lost.
Yeah.
I take the danger, or whatever he says.
And it's perfect. It's perfect.
Then he says, hell of a time to ask.
Hell of a time to ask. But at the same time, it's like, yeah, we got to do this. Like, I can't live this
him
way.
Out of me.
Yeah. And it's the perfect thing that Spock is in McCoy. Like that. They've always been each other's foil, right? So I always love that it's McCoy who holds the Cacho Spock. It's so perfect.
It makes way more sense. Makes for a way better story than if Kirk had had him.
Right? Yeah.
Well, imagine how.
Or if like Scotty.
Right? Yeah. That would just be stupid.
It's not logical, Captain. We can't fucking do it.
I've got his marbles in my head.
So they put him up there, and a lot of good cross-fading editing going on here between people looking. And my favorite shot of this is so like all the Vulcans are like closed eyes and they're like praying, right? Again, I'm not sure why religion exists in a society full of logic, but whatever. It's it's a quirk.
I think I know where you're going with this.
But so they're all like closed eyes, and at one point, like Scotty's looking at like Savick, like, what the fuck is wrong with this bridge? What's she doing? I couldn't decide. If I was going to say bitch or broad. A transporter accident happened, and now
I think that's perfect. I want to use Britch now for everything.
Yes.
Fuck you, Britch.
But anyway, he's like
Britch,
looking her
are you
over.
for real?
Yeah.
Britch, are you for real?
Now you can say, hold on to your britches.
Britches, please. Britches, leave. This is great. You've given birth to a whole new thing.
Hey, you know what? Sweet.
You were like the Genesis Project.
I know. It's going to break down eventually. But yeah, no. But like Scotty's like looking at her, looking at the probably the Temple Babes, looking at Savick, looking at the Temple Babes, looking at Savick, and it's like, what's wrong with you, Scotty? It's like, man, this is their thing, man. It's like, why are you sitting here like you just heard McCoy talk like Spock several times on the way to Genesis? Why is this suddenly weird to you, you weirdo?
Yeah.
And then you have so apparently it works, right?
Yes.
Bones comes down and says, "I'm fine, Kirk," or whatever he says.
It worked for him anyway.
Yeah. But then you have the long shot. The long shot of Spock walking away, and he kind of looks at Jim, and then he keeps walking, and then he turns around. And when he comes back, I'm sorry, I couldn't help but think when he was walking the line, at the end of it, he'd say, "I'm going to miss you most of all, Scarecrow." It was so fucking Wizard of Oz.
That's pretty perfect.
Did anybody else think that his robe looked terribly uncomfortable?
Yes.
It looked like a burlap sack.
Yeah. And we get to see a whole lot more of it in 4, don't we?
Yes,
the same robe.
Well, it's very similar.
It seems a little comfier in 4, though.
Yeah, it's a little bit more of a Snuggie in 4.
Yeah, it's a little bit more bathrobe material than
Yeah. So the adventure continues.
Yes.
To
next week.
Yeah. Final. Whatever. Like.
Final thoughts on Star Trek 3?
I guess. Yeah, I guess.
I don't have any.
I will. Let me come back to what I was going to say, or what I was talking about earlier. Where when I was a kid, I could not get over the destruction of the Enterprise. First of all, you stole it, and now you're going to blow it up. That's not cool, man. But now,
but if anyone's going to do it, it's going to be Kirk, man.
Well, that's fair enough, and he did do it the right way. It's like he just killed a shipload of fucking Klingons. That's awesome.
Shipload of Klingons.
A shipload of Klingons.
Them britches got fried.
Some hot britches. But like as I got older, it's like I realized like the real ideas behind the movie are about like, the things that you are personally obligated for versus, things that your duty obligates you to.
Right.
And, there are themes and ideas there. And the idea of sacrificing things for what you think is right is, okay.
And
okay.
I think the fact that Kirk acknowledges it with the "my God" moments, what have I done? That to me, like he allows you as the audience to understand that he's reflecting on the gravity of his decision.
You could take a moment with him there. Yeah.
Yeah, and I think that you absolutely you share some sense of emotion with the character at that moment. Yeah, totally.
And honestly, and we'll talk about more of this next week, and what these trilogies do really well is take these moments and move them into the next film. I don't know how they were written, but the fact that they have the bird of prey now is super important in the next movie.
Oh, and it's great. It's so great how they use it. I love
it's just cool how they connect all that stuff.
We'll talk about it next week, but I love the fact that this is now the Enterprise crew on a fucking Klingon bird of prey. I think that is just that's just fun.
Yep.
Well, the crew of the Enterprise who stole the Enterprise, who then stole the bird of prey.
Yeah.
And are now somewhat of fugitives.
Yes.
Yeah.
But they are also being protected by Vulcans.
Yes.
Yeah, super cool.
Yeah, so there's a lot going on there. So,
until next week.
Yeah, I don't know. Ken, what do you got? What do you got on this?
I don't really have anything more on it.
Cool. All right.
Looking forward to next week, though.
Yeah, I'm ready to find some nuclear vessels.
Don't bring up the nuclear vessels. I just have one last stupid little thing. When Kirk goes to comms with Krug for the first time, and he's facing the wrong way, and he like turns to the camera, is so frickin' Captain Kirk.
Yeah.
It's like I was just like, that's so awesome. It doesn't really matter in the story. It was just a cool moment.
I also like right before that when they're like, oh, their captain is hailing us or whatever, and Christopher Lloyd goes, put him on screen.
Yep, exactly. Yep.
Like in the most Christopher Lloyd way.
Right.
Yeah. There are times where it's like, oh man, he is crazy Christopher Lloyd, and it's Jim from Taxi
or
talking.
Yeah, totally, absolutely.
Yeah.
Yep.
But Wednesdays you can find new episodes of Film Seizure.
Absolutely.
We are about halfway through our little Trekation. I'm excited.
Mm-hmm.
And I know some of you assholes are pretty excited to talk about Star Trek 4.
Do we have anything left to talk about Star Trek 4?
Yeah, it's like, should I
next week for Star Trek 5?
Yeah, we just blew right past 3.
Maybe we should go back in time and re-record the episode.
Yeah. Well, I'll start doing the calculations. To slingshot around the sun.
You might have to take a guess, Jeff. I know.
Yeah. I do everything. I do that always. Mondays, Monster Mondays. That's with me. Saturdays, I've got my 00 Saturdays for at least the next 6 months. Only about halfway through this shit right now. And on Fridays, you can go over to B Movie Anima. Let's see here. Just last week I had Showgirls. Dark Angel, The Ascension is coming up this Friday.
What is that?
That is an old school full moon feature.
Oh my goodness.
It's got a pretty awesome part where a girl rips a guy's head and spine out of his fucking body. It's awesome.
Nice.
Anyway, so that's the stuff.
What was the movie I Come in Peace? That had a secondary title. Wasn't it like Dark Angel or something like that?
I don't remember.
You remember that with John?
I remember that movie
with Dolph Lundgren. It was Dolph Lundgren.
Well, I always remember I Come in Peace, you go in pieces.
Yeah.
Go in pieces. Yes.
No, it was. I Come in Peace was the theatrical release, but I think it was Dark Angel was the.
There is a movie called Dark Angel that is not the one that I'm writing about, but
Anyway.
Anyway, so next week is Star Trek 4. Somebody say something about where people can find us as far as like social media
You can find you guys on the Twitters and Facebook and Instagram. I'm trying to think of other places socially, but
FilmSeizure.com. That's a good place to go.
Yep. And you can listen on Spotify.
Yeah.
And YouTube's.
Yeah.
And SoundCloud. Anywhere you can find a podcast, really, you can find this podcast, I think.
Pretty close to anywhere, except for the podcast network that all the Nazis do stuff on. That we're not on that one.
Yeah. We're not on MindPots.
My God, Chuck, what have you done? Anyway, that I have got nothing more from there. Hey, Ken,
Yes, sir.
You're kind of stuck on our stolen bird of prey. You're kind of stuck with us for next week too. So hope you're okay with that.
Yes, indeed.
Beat me back up for that shit.
All right. So, until next week, I am Jeff Arbuckle.
I'm Chuck Moore.
I'm Jason Oliver, and you have been listening to Film. Oh, yes. I Come in Peace was originally titled Dark Angel, but it was retitled because the executive producer, Mark Damon, preferred the original title, and there were two other movies called The Dark Angel from 1925 and 1935. Seizure.